Welcome to Ivy Lane Home. I'm Lisa, and today's project is a gorgeous French Provincial. This is by Century. Now, my daughter and I went and picked it up, and it was so heavy. She was in flip-flops for one, trying to go backwards, but she was having a hard time holding on to it. But when I got it home, I don't think it's veneer. I think it's solid. So it's gonna be a fun project. Let me show it to you. Here it is. It's a beautiful French Provincial. This is actually by Century, which is a great brand. Now it has these weird little I think it's called fly speck finish. And so the top has a little bit scratching on this side. So, and pretty good sized dents right here. Looks like something just poked into it. So that has to be repaired. But overall, it's in really good shape. I don't like the hardware. I like the style, but it's super chunky. I feel like it makes it look really heavy. I don't mind this as much, but this one's broke. And so I'm gonna have to probably either replace or something. Now I think this is aftermarket, obviously, these. So I don't love them, so I think I'll replace them. But you gotta have something shallow enough that it doesn't nick the door. So I'll have to be careful there. But my goodness, this is a gorgeous dresser. I was looking at the back to see if I could figure out if it was solid wood or veneer. And you can usually tell by looking at the back. And that is solid wood. That is solid wood. And so this, I don't know about the top. That might just be veneer. See that right there? There's like a little gap there. So there's a lot of solid wood components and veneer. So I believe the band is solid, and I think this is solid too. So it would explain why it's so heavy. So it's gonna be a great piece. I just don't know what to do with it yet. Anytime I come across a piece that's in really good shape but dated, it's always a quandary because I hate to paint something that's beautiful already. There's not like a ton of veneer damage on it, but people just don't like this style. Buyers don't like this style. Now I know a lot of people out there would be like, I love it, I love it. Well, but maybe you're not my buyer. And so I have to think, because I'm a business, I have to think, okay, what would people want? So I don't love the fly speck finish. It's very dated. And so, but I'm not going to paint the whole thing. It's just too beautiful. And I'm not stripping the whole thing. It's too detailed. And so for what I could get out of it. So I have to think through a few options. I could strip the top and restain it. I could go with a dark gel stain. I could go with a black wash. So the top is the main part that needs some attention because of the scarring on top. I don't think if I put a gel stain over that, it's gonna cover it. It's just gonna accentuate those areas. Gel stain's great to put over for a gentle restoration when you don't have damage. But if you have damage, you gotta fix the damage first. So I could maybe fill it in with some wax, hard wax, and then put the gel stain over it, but kind of feel like I need to take it down to raw. So let me just clean it and I'll think about it, what we're gonna do.
So I'll start by taking all of the hardware off, and then I'll give it a nice little clean. Always clean it, make sure I vacuum it. This particular one, when I took it apart, I had some problem with the little drawer stop in the back. You can see it just was moving around. And so that kind of helps hold the drawer so it doesn't go too far in. So all it needed to do is I just needed to re-glue it in. So those are pretty easy to fix, but you do want to make sure that you fix them. That way, you know, you have good drawer movement there. And then I just cleaned it with a degreaser. I had a lot of areas there that were more detailed, so I have these little scrubbies that you can attach to your drill, and it makes it a little easier. I'm going to start by scraping the top. I'm using my carbide scraper. I could have used a chemical stripper, but since I'm not doing the body, I don't want to get any chemical stripper on any other part. So this was coming off pretty good. I did find it was getting a little dull. I have a sharpener. You just simply unscrew the blade, add a little bit of water, some oil, circular motion, and you're just kind of, sharpening that blade. I go both directions and I go back and forth. I do it a few times and then you just reattach it and then it'll scrape a lot better. I'm going to continue to work my way down. Obviously, the scraping is honestly, if the finish comes off, if it's not super thick, it's really fast. Obviously not as fast as when I time lapse it. It overall is a really fast way to remove that finish. And honestly, if I wanted to redo it right away, I can sand it and redo it in the same day. Whereas if I'm using a chemical stripper, I need to let it dry out overnight. So that is the benefit of scraping. Now I'm using my little pocket scraper on the edges. It's great for getting into the detailed areas. I'm just going to scrape off that finish and then I'll come back and sand. So we made pretty quick work of that, and now we're going to go on and do our sanding. So I always start with my Festool sander. This is my orbital sander. I'll start with 80 grit, and I'll just do a really rough sand over the whole thing. Usually after that, most of the finish is removed. So all I do is I hand sand for the 120 and the 180, and then I'll pause and decide how I want to go ahead and finish it. I'm ready to restain it. Before I do that, I'm going to apply a pre-stain. I'm going to use a water-based stain, so I'm going to use a water-based pre-stain. And this is going to help make sure that I have a nice finish, that it's not blotchy. And so I'm just going to apply it. It said to kind of, I usually use oil-based. I haven't used the water-based. So they said to apply it with a brush, leave it for a few minutes, and then you're going to come back with a lint-free rag and wipe off any excess. It was kind of acting a little weird because you see there's like a little cloudy there. So I was like, I wasn't sure if that was what it's supposed to look like or not, but I just kind of kept going and it dried down and it was fine. I'm using Antique Brown. This is by General Finishes. This is a water-based stain. So I'm going to give it a nice little, just a very fine scuff sand. Make sure that water-based products tend to raise the grain a little bit. So I'm just kind of knocking the grains back down. Then I'll tack it back off and then I'll be ready for my stain. Now the trick with water-based stain, especially when it's hot outside, is you have to work fast and you have to work in sections. I find that sometimes water-based stains are harder to apply than oil-based. So you can see I just applied one strip, I went all the way down, and then I wiped it off with my blue shop towel, and it is lint free. And then I'm just going to work in sections and go all the way through the whole thing. So here it is, all fresh and clean, and it looks really good. I really like the top. So now I'm going to move on to the drawers. I'm going to stand with 180 grit. I'm just going to just kind of rough it up. I'm just trying to kind of degloss it, kind of knock back some of that shine so I can either do a wash or apply the gel stain. I've not done a black wash, so I decided I'm going to try that. So in order to do that, I'm going to try to seal it with de-wax shellac first, just to make sure I don't have any kind of weird interference with the existing finish and the paint wash that I'm going to use. I'm using General Finishes Milk Paint in Lamp Black. It's one of my favorite blacks. It's so beautiful. I'm doing kind of a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm applying it with my zebra fan brush, which I love to do for my paint washes, and I'm just going to brush it on. Again, I'm using like a 1-to-1 ratio. And I wiped it back off and the whole thing came off. So I don't know what I did wrong. I think maybe after the shellac, I should have sanded it again just to kind of rough up the edges, give it some tooth for it to kind of adhere to. But it didn't work for me. So I was like, okay, well, I will shelf that for another project. You can tell me in the comments if you have any ideas of doing a black wash over an existing finish. So I pivoted and I'm going to go on to gel stain, because gel stain is tried and true, works great. You can see I put it on and it's already working good. So it's just going to kind of tone it a little bit darker. I'm using Kona. This is by Varathane, and it's just a beautiful color. It's going to kind of deepen it a little bit. You can apply it with a chip brush or a foam brush. So you simply apply it, let it set for a couple seconds, and then you remove the excess with a lint-free rag. It's a pretty subtle look. You can tell I'm not going super different. So the top there is just toned a little bit darker than that second drawer. Just enough to kind of blend in that fly speck finish. I'm going to do the same on the top. So even though it kind of matches currently, I need it to go a little bit darker so that it will match the body after I've applied the Kona. So I'm doing the same thing. This has been 24 hours, so I've let it dry, and I'm applying the gel stain over that. I'll apply it. Now you have a little bit more open time with the gel stain because it's oil-based. So you can see I'm not having to do it in sections. It'll give me some time to kind of wipe it back. It won't dry too quick on me. And then I'll just wipe off the excess with my blue shop towels.
Wow, this looks great. Oh, good. Ooh-wee. She's looking gorgeous. Looking good.
So I'm using my chip brush and just applying a little bit more because there were some areas that didn't really fill in. So I'm just using it sparingly. I dipped it in my can. I kind of brush off any excess, and I'm just going with the grain and applying it and just kind of blending in those areas. Once I let that dry for 12 hours, I'm ready to top coat. So I'm using Behr's polyurethane. This is their matte, and it is oil-based because I'm using an oil-based stain. So I'll put it into my Earlex 5700, and I'll just simply spray on that top coat. I like water-based and oil-based, but there is something special about oil-based product. Seems to really deepen the richness of the wood, so I really do love oil-based. When I have some really detailed areas, I like to use the offset pattern on my sprayer, and then that just helps me get into those areas really easily. And then I can change out and do either the vertical or the horizontal for the rest of the area. I'll give it a little scuff sand, and I'll do another coat of the top coat. So I ended up finding some pretty beautiful hardware on Etsy that was vintage, and it came, and I'm going to clean it up. So I always soak it in boiled water with vinegar and baking soda. So once I kind of let it set, then I'll come back with some Barkeeper's Friend and some very fine steel wool, like a 4/0 steel wool, and I'll get it polished up. This was exactly the width that I needed. I think they were 6 inches. It doesn't look brand new. It just kind of brightened it a little bit. I'm not going for a super bright color. I want it to still look vintage. And so I'm just kind of, polishing it, making it a little bit brighter. Now I had to end up cutting down some screws. So sometimes the screws you have just don't work. So I use my wire strippers. You can see it says insert screw here. So you just simply insert the screw into the, depth that you want, and then you just squeeze it down and you'll hear like a little click. And then you can just simply kind of rock it out, and you can see there is my screw. Now sometimes the threads get messed up, so you could put a nut on first and then cut it down and then unthread the nut, and then that will rethread the threads for you. So it worked out fine for me. I had to cut one on every single one of them because of the way that the drawer is curved. I'm really liking these. I think it's going to look really good. I forgot to open up the middle and top coat all of the drawers in the middle, so I'm simply applying it with a foam brush. And if you remember the knobs in the middle, I wasn't crazy about them, but I thought, okay, well, let's just clean them up and see how they polish up. And they polished up really pretty. I mean, they're beautiful brass. So they were exactly the size I needed, obviously. And so I kept them. And then in my stash, I did find some drop pulls that I think worked really good. They weren't exactly the tone match, but they were really close. And I felt like they really matched the style. So the other ones were broke. I was able to just simply attach these. I had to, cut down my screw again. But I'm liking these drop pulls too. So the last step I always do is I clean out my drawers really well. I clean them with a 50-50 mixture of denatured alcohol and water. And then sometimes I will line them, but if they're in really good shape, then sometimes I don't. You can see I'm sanding off some of the area that I got some gel stain on, because I had my gloves on and I kind of grip the drawer when I'm moving it around. So sometimes I do get gel stain on the sides. But I'm using a new to me product. This is Artisan Furniture Wood Balm. It's by Arlington Woodworks, and I'll have it linked down in the description. But it's a veteran-owned company, just has 3 ingredients. It smells amazing, and it really revives the wood beautifully. And so you just simply apply it, kind of let it set for a little bit, and then you come back and buff it out. But I really like it. It's not as liquidy as some of the other waxes that are out there, so it's easy to apply, and it's just not super drippy. Well, let's look back at the before on this one. This was a gorgeous piece. I love Century furniture. It's super high quality. This thing is so solid, but it's out of date. And a lot of people they like the French Provincial style, but they just feel like this is heavy. And obviously it didn't sell. So, I thought it was really a quality piece though. So I didn't want to paint it because it had no veneer damage. I mean, I had just a little bit of the area on the top where I had scratches and such, but it's not like I had veneer chipping off or anything. So it really didn't call for a full paint job or anything. But after all that work, here's the finished product. What do you think? I like it. I think it looks really elegant. Now that top is beautiful. You know, part of me wishes maybe I had gone ahead and stripped the whole thing, but I didn't. What do you think about the hardware? So here's the original, real chunky. There's the new. What do you think? Yes, I like the after. I think it's a lot more subtle. It's a little bit more clean line. I mean, this is a heavy, kind of busy dresser. And so I think by doing more streamlined hardware, I think it complements it a little bit better. And I love Etsy because you can find this. I mean, this is vintage hardware. So it looks like it could be original because it is vintage. It's from a vintage place. So I'll have some of it linked down in the description as well from Etsy. But I love it. I think it's a beautiful tone. And again, it makes it look like it's original to the dresser. And then these are the pulls that I decided on for the middle. Again, not a completely 100% match, but I think they work. I think they blend really good with the vintage hardware. So it's sometimes hard to find hardware. You know, sometimes it's hard to, source things, and you want it to be a match for the style, but you also have to kind of be careful with the price on things too, because it is a flip. So I think it's lovely. I love the tones. I'm okay with the varying tones that I have on it. You can see there's just a little bit of the original kind of popping through. You can still see the wood grain, and I like that. I like that you can kind of see that. So enjoy some of these videos, and I'll come back at the end. So what do you think about this one? Did you like it? Do you think I should have stripped the whole thing? Maybe next time when I get another one, I will strip the whole thing. Maybe. Tell me what you think in the comments. What should I ask for it? Last one sold like this, it was $1,400. I don't know. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. Thanks so much for watching.